Welcome to Victorious Parenting. I'm your host, Arabella Hill. Now's the time to transform your home life and make parenting a breeze by learning and applying new strategies. Let's get into it. I've been sharing with you the 5 pillars of emotional intelligence, and now we are at empathy. Pillar number 1, just as a recap, is self-awareness. Pillar number 2 is emotional regulation. And pillar number 3 is self-motivation. And pillar number 4 is empathy. And why would you want to know about emotional intelligence? Well, scientists have discovered that the predictor of successful life outcomes isn't necessarily IQ. It's EQ, emotional intelligence. That is the biggest predictor of successful life outcomes in adults. Children who have emotional intelligence built within them from a very young age grow up to be so much more successful because they become more relational and so much more mature within themselves. I've talked about this a lot, and now we're talking about empathy. So empathy has really been misunderstood for decades. Now it's the time to learn what empathy really is. When you ask people about empathy, which I have done in my surveys, most people think it's about feeling other people's feelings, and it's not really about feeling other people's feelings. We can't always feel exactly how someone else is feeling. For example, if someone is going through something that you haven't personally gone through, it can be really hard to physically feel the feelings they are feeling. And you wouldn't really want to do that either, because it would derail your own life and your own day. It's not really healthy to take on the emotions personally of others and to really have them instilled within you. You can only be responsible for your own emotions. So how do we connect with others? We do that through real empathy. We need to recognize the signs between empathy and pity as well. Pitying someone is when we feel sorry for them, and it can almost end up driving us to say, well, thank goodness that's not me. That's an outcome that can come from pity. Now, pity does have its place in times where we are severely disconnected from the issue. Say we are watching something on TV and we see a major flood and a lot of people have lost their home. We can't directly empathize with them because perhaps we haven't gone through the same situation ourselves. We can understand how painful it is for them, but we do feel very sorry for them and their children that they've lost their homes. That's a part of pity. Now, how do you go from just pity to empathy? Is that you really understand how they're feeling and then how it affects them on the long term. How we can empathize with others is by putting ourselves in their shoes. And again, it's not by taking on their emotions and trying to physically feel them for yourselves. It's by understanding that person on a deep level. Pity is a surface level emotion. Empathy goes a lot deeper. Pity is when you are more disconnected from the situation, but empathy is when you want to drive a bond between you and the individual in question. Do you want to bond stronger with others? Learn how to empathize with them. That's what empathy is all about. When your children can develop key senses of empathetic abilities within themselves, they will be able to understand how others around them feel, the root causes of those feelings, without letting those feelings and emotions of others impact them emotionally. And here's a really good example for you. When my son was 7 years old, he was on the school field and some boys were playing baseball, and the ball went off into the field and ended up hitting another child in the head, and the child fell over. The teachers did not see this. My son ran over and picked the child up and asked him if he was okay. The other boys were standing around laughing, saying, you got hit in the head and things like that. And my son asked them to stop and said, don't you know how he feels? Imagine this was you and you just got hit in the head. He's probably going to get a headache now. So he took the boy by the hand and he led the boy to the nurse's station in the school where he was able to get help. And my son sat with him the whole time until his parents were called and picked him up. My son, in fact, insisted sitting with him to keep him company so he didn't have to sit in the nurse's office all by himself while his parents came to pick him up. That's empathy. Now, if my son was just pitying him, he may have looked from a distance and felt really sorry for him, may have pointed him to the nurse's station, but wouldn't have gone much beyond that. That's pity. So now I think you can start to recognize the difference between empathy and pity, and why empathy is not taking on the emotions of others, but it's really to seeking to understand them on a deep level so we can build good relationships with them. If you would like access to more parenting resources and a big supportive community, I'd like to invite you to our Facebook group, Victorious Parenting. I give regular content every single day, and we have a unit section where you can find all the best content. There are some short form and long form content in there, like the Grey Rock method and how to deal with sibling rivalry. And as well, you'll get to be a part of a great big community of parents who are becoming victorious just like you. We'd love to have you join us in Victorious Parenting. Discover the 7 biggest mistakes parents make that can lower their child's self-esteem forever. PromotingSelfesteem.com.